Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good, good. I also just want to check with those of you who are coming in on Google Meet. Can you, is your picture okay, or is it um, a little dicey? Okay, good. We had some problems earlier this evening when we were setting things up, and the picture here was uh, a bit pixelated and not real bad, but a little bit. But now it's clear, and you are all clear to me. So I wanted to make sure we were clear to you. Okay, well, let me get started here. First of all, here in the Zendo, I have Josh and Kevin and Chris and Jill. And on Google Meet, I have Mike and Mark and David and Rannigan. Welcome to one and all. We're going to take up Ben's second chapter, which I'm assuming if you've looked at it, you know it's only about 4.5 pages. So I don't know how long this talk will be. Depends on how much you have to say. It's an interesting, I found it an interesting way that he started this chapter with the story about Angulimala. It's an old story. It's from the Pali Canon. And Angulimala was a man who supposedly, as a young man, was very bright and a good person, and then somehow, which I wasn't very clear in what I read, got into some understanding with his teacher, who initially he liked him very much, but the teacher, in an attempt apparently to get rid of him, sends him out in order to finish his training. He must gather the name Angulimala means a garland of fingers, and he is supposed to uh, put together 1,000 fingers, meaning that he's killing that many people. He is known as a not the best guy, although interestingly enough, there are also stories apparently in the Pali Canon, although I didn't do enough research to get back there, but that say that he and the Buddha actually had interactions in a previous lifetime, where Angulimala was actually a better person. But at any rate, Angulimala has killed a bunch of people, and he decides that he's going to go see the Buddha, and the Buddha is going to go see him. Angulimala intends to kill him. But when he gets close, the Buddha is walking slowly, but Angulimala can't catch up with him. And in the end, there's I have a couple of the things that he said. For the purposes of Ben's book, Angulimala cries out, "Stop!" The Buddha, who is still walking, says, "I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too." And according to Ben, Angulimala sheds his violent ways and devotes himself to peace and humility. I will read one of the other, maybe, if I can figure out what I did with one of the other more lengthy comments on what the Buddha said was, "I have stopped Angulimala. Once and for all, having cast off violence toward all living beings. You, though, are still unrestrained towards beings. That is how I have stopped, and you haven't. This idea of stopping, I think, is at the center of what he is talking about. And stopping, in this sense, is phenomenal. We know that the Dharma flows, it doesn't stop. But we're going to look at it in a different way to help us understand some more, to understand things in a different way, to help us to better approach, hopefully, the absolute. The next story he tells is one about his recovery, in which he talks about, and I'm sure Chris has seen this many times, those, I was in a hardback chair in an addiction treatment intake interview, nonchalantly explaining what a badass I was. The pressure I was under to enter rehabilitation had not tempered my disdain for the process and the changes it hoped to make in my life. I bragged and I postured. The counselor, Connie, put down her pad and paper, took a deep breath, looked me in the eye, and asked, "Can we just stop?" Which leads to him breaking through and accepting his treatment. Again, the idea of stopping is one of the critical issues. What we see here is both skillful means by the Buddha and by Connie, even though she's not practicing Buddhism necessarily, and also a turning phrase, a phrase that was able in both cases to turn the person around. He goes on to say that the second verse in our text makes a pivot that is common in Huayan between universal and particular. The first line says that the Dharma nature pervades everything. And the second line says all dharmas are unmoving and fundamentally peaceful. If this is phenomena, then how are we going to deal with it? We know how we deal with it in meditation, based on our mindfulness of the body, of our sensory experience, of our thoughts, our motivations. And after we practice for a while, I think we all start to see that meditation and mindfulness help us to stop. They help us to have a bit of space between our reaction and how we act. We can still choose to act like we would normally react, but we have that space now, after we've been meditating, to choose our reactions differently. Mindfulness and meditation allow us to see the myriad things of the present moment as a constant flow, and to let it pass without being so upset or driven by it. He goes on then to say, we can see that each thing is entirely and wholly itself, but only right now. It is just still. And what he's saying by this is, moment, of course, if we talk about moment, we're talking about something that's phenomenal because there is no such thing. You can't stop. There is no moment. Everything flows together. This is a construction to help us see. This is a construction in the same way that we use dualities to help us within the world that we live in. But in this case, what he's saying is that if we stop and look, that we can see each thing as its own dharma, pure and simple. He talks about that this is a paraphrase of the first line of the Buddhist Sutra, Samandhi Nirmokana, which says all phenomena are unproduced, unceasing, quiescent from the start, and naturally in a state of nirvana. The next sentence, though, kind of reminds us that we are dealing with the Mahayana, which is each thing is nirvana, but is also inseparable from samsara. It is a different way of seeing that enables us to engage in acts that alleviate suffering from a grounding in stillness and peace. Let me just stop there for a second before we go too much farther. I realize I'm kind of going on with what I prepared, but anything anybody wants to ask, comment, or I will. Chris.
Just, this whole thing about just stopping, just reminded me of a great story concerning Dido Lori of the Zen Mountain Monastery. And Dido Lori was a very heavy smoker.
Yeah.
And in fact, I believe he died of lung cancer.
Yes.
And so there's a story about he was in Dokusan with his teacher, and whose name I don't know, but
Mezumi Roshi.
yeah, thank you, yeah. And they were in Dokusan, and his teacher lit a cigarette. So there was no turning phrase, it was a turning gesture. They lit a cigarette and then put it out in the ashtray. And I think he was acknowledging that yes, you're a smoker, past, present, future, and then it was, stopping.
Stop it. Yeah.
Stopping.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he was able to actually quit smoking, but the message was that you can change habits. You can change habit, energy, or habitual ways of being by slowing down and stopping and considering what it is that you're doing. And I think that was the message of that
Yeah.
question. So pretty powerful because I don't think his teacher was a smoker.
As far as I know, Mezumi Roshi wasn't, but yeah, what a
Yeah, what a great teacher.
you don't need words.
Hey, John,
Yes.
that I don't know if other people could hear Chris, but I couldn't. And the captions don't make any sense from Chris. So
Okay.
can you relate to us what he said?
Yeah. He was talking about a story about John Dido Lori, who
Oh.
was sitting with his teacher, Mezumi Roshi, in Dokusan. And Dido Lori was a big smoker. He was that when I had seen him many years ago. And as Chris said, he actually died of lung cancer eventually. But he was in Dokusan with Mezumi Roshi, and what Chris said was that Mezumi Roshi took out a cigarette without saying anything lit it, and reached over and put it out.
Oh,
He was not a smoker,
mm,
but it was a communication, obviously. And very
yeah,
cool story.
that's
So,
a
yeah,
good one.
I got everything right with that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the story about Dido Luri.
Wasn't Maizumi Roshi an alcoholic?
That I don't
Did he
know.
put down, did he put down
Possible.
the drink too?
No, I don't think so. To my that's not something I had heard, Mark. I knew he was a heavy smoker. I didn't hear that he was in recovery or that he was an alcoholic, but he may have been. I spent a fair amount of time there. That was something I never heard, if it's true. Anything else? I always like when your dog comes in, Mike, to say hello. He just came in, looked up at the camera, and walked back out again.
Apu is devout.
So let me go back to the text here, because he talks about this idea of stopping as a different way of seeing that enables us to engage in acts to alleviate suffering from a grounding in stillness and peace. He says Dharma nature pervades everything, and therefore each thing is peace. Each thing is unmoving in and of itself. Now, I went around and around with that one, but that's when Dean and I talked about it, he helped me to understand that this is, in fact, a phenomenal way of seeing things. It's not absolute, it is phenomenal, but it is a way that can help us view the Dharma in a different way. And he gives the example of a flood, where a river is flooding, and you can see the water comes down, it's washing the bank away. But if you stop it and just look at it, you no longer see the action. You see the muddy water, you see the bank, you see the river, everything is still. And it's this process that he is talking about doing. And he goes on to say on the last page, it's impossible for each thing to be known exactly and only now, unmoving. Seeing this stillness, seeing a peace that is never separate from this movement. It is always available to you, always how things are, actually are, whether you know it or not. And then he ends the chapter by talking about the protest that he attended after the trial of Derek Chauvin, with the gathering on George Floyd Square. But he talks about a group of Buddhists who simply went and sat in the middle of thousands of people and just sat, to be present, to be there. Like I said, this may be real short, but I'm open to any other comments. Those are my thoughts on what I read. I certainly would love to hear yours. Mike.
Yeah, it made me think of the koan about the flag moving, and the two monks are arguing about, what's the cause of the movement, and then I forget what the turning phrase of the passing teacher is. But this whole thing of the mud and the river and the bank really kind of unpacked that for me and gave me kind of a new little portal into something like, oh, so I mean, and the whole act of zazen in general, like he's talking about in a very, very live and very recent history moment of, chaos and emotion and all sorts of currents of things just flowing every which way in terms of human drama, and people just sitting resolutely in the middle of it. And to me, it just points to the soulless and the soulless, I should not soullessness, but just the comfort of just stopping and sitting and just being present and stopping all our, running around and doing, to really come back to a place where then we can act from, if we need to, with hopefully some wisdom or some calmness, perhaps. So as always, I found this just wonderful, but in particular, that's what it brought to mind for me.
I hadn't thought about that koan, but you are right on the money with that. It's very helpful in understanding that koan, actually.
The book of those koans is sitting on my desk beside me. Is the only
Well,
I've been doing a different project with that, so yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? Brannigan.
What Mike just said resonates with me too, and what this whole little chapter in this line indicates is, it's very interesting because I'm constantly busy, but I've dropped out of a lot of things because of medical complications, both for myself and my husband. And I found myself enjoying flowers and bugs and a lot of things that I don't normally even pay attention to. So it's been very helpful, and I've been enjoying the quiet. Yep.
That's something that I found as well, that I certainly enjoy the quiet and actually seek it out many times now, which I'm not sure I did before, but I certainly do now. Chris, you know what? Let me try the other.
That's okay. Just
Well, either that, yeah.
speakers and,
Yeah, we didn't actually.
yeah. So I was just going to say on page 34, there was a line that really stood out to me, which was, it's sort of the middle of the page. It says, for many of us, mindfulness and meditation practice allows us to see the myriad things of the present moment as a constant flow, and to let it pass without being so upset and driven by it. So, in the midst of this constant flow of myriad things, phenomenal things, it's this idea that we can have this stillness if we just allow ourselves to stop. And I think that was a lot of what Ben was saying as well. So I just really like that sentence. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mhm.
And that sounded loud and clear for me. I don't know about other Google people.
Oh, that's because Chris came up and stood by the computer. Or knelt by the computer in this case, but we don't We don't have the auxiliary, we're still working on some of the IT stuff. We don't have the auxiliary speaker plugged in tonight. And I'm not sure it's connected yet, but we will get that taken care of as well. It's all coming little by little here.
Well, yeah, we appreciate the extra kin hand to support.
There you go. All right. Anything else? Okay. How about if we chant out? I vow to myself and to each of you to commit myself daily to the healing of our world and the welfare of all beings, to live on earth more lightly and less violently in the food, products, and energy I consume, to draw strength and guidance from the living earth, the ancestors, the future generations, and my brothers and sisters of all species, to support others in our work for the world, and to ask for help when I need it, to pursue a daily practice that clarifies my mind, strengthens my heart, and supports me in observing these vows.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll see you all Saturday or next Thursday, if not Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.